Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Online Smicha. Today we'll discuss halacha in this week's Parsha, Parshas Vayetze. In this week's Parsha we talk about how Yaakov was tricked by Lavan, and Vihine Babaker, he wakes up in the morning and he sees that Lavan gave him Leah. So he approaches Lavan and says, "Why did you do this?" Vayomer Lavan, Leah came b'mkreimenu lasis hatziira lefnei abechira. Lavan responds and says, it's not the proper thing, we don't behave that way in our community, in our city, to marry the younger before they're older. And the Mefarshim asked the obvious question. This was a done deal. Yaakov was very specific 7 years ago when he asked to marry Rochel. Why is Lavan changing his mind? And the answer that the Eir HaChaim HaKadosh gives, Lavan was still willing to marry Rochel off first, but the Anshe Hamakim, the people of the community, the people of the city, were against it, and that's why the pasuk stresses Layase came bimkaimenu. Other Mefarshim explain that actually Lavan was willing to do it. At the original, when Yaakov asked to marry Rochel, Lavan was happy because he figured Rochel will marry Yaakov, the younger will marry the younger, and Leah will marry Esau, not knowing that the Bechor was actually sold to Yaakov. Now, at this point, Lavan felt tricked that Yaakov bought the Bechor from Esau, and he says, if you're the Bechor, you also have to marry the older one, Leah. But the question is, how about Yaakov? If it's such an unfair thing to do, what was Yaakov thinking when he asked to marry Rochel? So the Eir HaChaim HaKadosh continues and says that Yaakov felt that the problem, this issue, was only if you're not clear in advance. If the parents are not in this and they don't know who, what, when, where. However, if in the beginning, from the get-go, I was very clear and I said I would like to marry the younger one, Rochel, and there was no objection, then obviously the issue of Lasis Hatziira Lefnei Abechira is not an issue because the parents were masking, the father was masking. That's what the Eir HaChaim HaKadosh answers. La halacha, we find that this becomes a ma'aseh b'poy halacha. But before that, we have to mention what the Gemara says in Baba Basra. The Gemara says concerning the Bnei Selafchad, and the Gemara says La halon monon hakasov derech gedulasam. That later the pasuk lists off the names of the daughters of Selafchad based on their age. V'kan derech hachmasan. However, here in this pasuk, the pasuk lists them off based on their level of knowledge. Messiah leila Rabami is a proof to the opinion of Rabbi. The Amar Rabami b'yeshiva halacha achar chachma, b'mesiba halacha achar zikna. B'yeshiva, when it's talking about a din Torah or an honorable place of study, then in the way you seat the people, you seat them halach achar chachma. The wiser one gets a better seat. However, b'mesiba, in a party, halach achar zikna. You go after age. Whoever is older comes first. And the Rashbam says, "V'hu mishta v'hu adin l'nesuin." The same will apply not only by a regular party, but it will apply by a mishta, by a nesuin, by a chasna. So the Rashbam took this a step further and says, not a party, but by marriage, you have to marry off the bechira before the tzira. You have to marry off the older one before the younger one. Rav Moshe Feinstein in his Shuvas, Harav Moshe Feinstein in his Shuvas, is mechadash a tremendous chiddush, and he says that this psak din obviously is because of coverage for the older one. That only applies if two of them are looking for a shidduch. If none of them yet are spoken for and they haven't become engaged yet, then you have to try to do the bechira before the tzira. Boy or girl, whatever it is. However, if the younger one is already engaged to be married, the question should be, should he or she wait for the older one, says Rav Moshe, this person has already the chiyuv, the fulfillment, the chiyuv to fulfill his mitzvah. He has no reason to wait for somebody else, even for somebody older. Says Rav Moshe, you might say it's embarrassing, it's a busha for the older one, Says Moshe, there's many other reasons why people are able to delay a shidduch, either because he's frum and he wants to study more, or he wants to develop a better parnasa. Not necessarily it is a busha. And therefore Moshe says that this whole psak din of making sure to marry the older before the younger only applies if they're looking for shidduchim. But once the younger one is already engaged, then for sure the younger one should marry. The Rebbe, in his letters, seems to be very, very strict about this. That to be very careful to try to marry off the older one first. But the Rebbe has a different suggestion. The Rebbe's suggestion, based on the Gemara, where the Gemara says that b'nai slavchad and halacha chazikna, halacha chachma, we see that it all depends on the feeling of the older person. So if somehow you could satisfy the older person's feeling, for example, try to make sure that the older one is Michael, either him or her are Michael or Michaelis, they're agreeable to the younger one to marry, then, says the Rebbe Leslamba, this whole chash will not apply. The whole problem of embarrassing the older one obviously will not apply, because he or her are very specific on being Michael this issue. On top of that, the Rebbe suggests that if the younger one is married, so all parties of the younger one's chasna, the parents and even possibly the younger family that's getting married, should put in some money towards the chasna of the older one, and so that will actually increase the shalom. And in one letter, the Rebbe actually says that when there will become v'tikane Leah ba'choser, when there will be a level of jealousy, beruchnius, that will actually become the mocker of the bracha for the older one to find a shidduch toiv, and that's a mocker for all the brachas to follow. Please join us next week, and the next week's shir on halacha. Thank you.